Hello everybody, my name is Mel. Welcome back, and today we're going to do a little spring cleaning. It is that time of year where everybody starts cleaning out their closets and getting rid of things and trying to start fresh for a new spring season. And I figured, why not do this with books? There are a lot that I have had sitting in my closet for forever or on my shelves that I'm never going to read, never going to reread. They need to go. They got to get out of here. So I am going to be putting all of these books on Pango Books. So if you guys are interested in any of these and you're like, dang, why is she getting rid of that? I would love to have that book. Then please go down to Pango Books. I'm going to link it in the description down below. Check out my little shop. And if you want any and you're US based, please feel free to buy whatever you want. This is not sponsored by Pango Books. If you want to sponsor me, you know where to find me. But I just really enjoy their service and it's worked great for me to find some amazing deals so far. So I wanted to share it with you guys as well. So without further ado, let's jump on into the spring cleaning unhaul. I'm going to try to do these in order of like middle grade, YA, and adult, but there are many boxes over here. So there may be some that kind of slide into different categories. If I'm successful, I will timestamp it down below so that if you're only interested in a certain age group, then you can just skip forward to that. So editing Mel just popping in real quick to say that these are from a non-smoker home, but they do come from a dog and cat home. So if you have allergies to either one, I would probably skip over any of these on Pango Books. But just to let you know, non-smoking, pet home, there you go. All right, so buckle up and let's get started. I'm going to start with my middle grade because that is the smallest stack, then move to YA and then to adult. So, and keep in mind, I will let you know if some of these aren't in the best condition. I did buy some of these secondhand myself, and so I already had them before reading them, and I try to take really good care of my books, but some people are just like, hey, I'm just going to read it and then donate it anyway, so if it gets a little banged up, it's no big deal, but I'll make sure to try to point that out where I notice it. But the first one is A Shark Collar by Zillian Bethel. And this is a middle grade that follows a young girl who lives in a coastal town and her uncle or father is a shark collar. And it says just on the back, I want to be able to call the sharks, teach me the magic, and show me the ways. This was a middle grade monthly pick that I purchased and then just never got around to reading before the live show. And I wasn't interested enough in it to really want to pick it up after the live show, so that's why I'm going to be donating this one. The next one is one that's probably going to pain a lot of people, but I read another by this author and just didn't really enjoy it, and I think it's going to be a little bit too whimsical for me, and that's The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. I read Witch Boy, didn't love it. I do know that that's not overly similar to her writing in this book, but again, it seems like a very whimsical, very beautiful middle grade, which is just not really my cup of tea. So that's why I'm going to be donating this one. I'm also going to be going through these descriptions pretty quickly, if at all, because there are so many books here that if I went through the descriptions for every book, we would be here all day. Okay, so the next one is also another middle grade monthly pick that I did read, but just didn't really jive with, and that is City of Rust, by Gemma Fowler. This is a steampunk dystopian novel, and it does have a very colorful mechanical gecko. It does have a little bit of sci-fi elements to it, and it was fun. It just wasn't really the book for me. So if you're interested in Rust, there you go. Okay, another one that I did read and enjoy, but will never read again is The Secret Keepers by Trenton Lee Stewart. This is a middle grade mystery that follows a young boy who has got to try to find out the secrets of this light tower. And like I said, I had a good time with this. It's a longer middle grade, but it just wasn't something that I'm ever going to reread. So it's going in the Pango pile. Okay, and then the last middle grades that I have are ones that I'm donating or are ones that I'm getting rid of, not because I didn't enjoy them, but because I actually bought the hardcovers to get the Nerdy Ink New Dust Jackets. And that's the box set of the Percy Jackson series. You all know what this is about. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going through it. But it is books 1 through 5. They have not been read because I listened to the audiobooks and then I purchased the hardcovers. So if you're interested in these, comes in the box set with the nice little sleeve. Okay, whoopsie. I'm over here throwing books. So moving on to the YA stack, and there are a lot of these. The first one is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This one was gifted to me, so it really kind of pains me to get rid of it, but it's just not really the book for me. It is a Gothic horror, which sounds very interesting, but I just don't know that Silvia Moreno Garcia's writing and I really get along all that well. I have heard some fantastic things about this book. It is a haunted house horror, so if that sounds intriguing to you, maybe give this a go. The next one that I have is Fountains of Silence by Ruta Sepetys. I got this through Book of the Month just kind of as a general add-on, and it is a historical fiction set in Madrid, 1957, and that's just not the genre that I read. I'm not a really big historical fiction fan. It was around the time that all of the books by Ruta Sepetys were getting such great reviews, and I was like, maybe I'll pick it up. But I've had it for years now, and I haven't picked it up yet, so I think it's time to go. I just realized that I am completely out of frame when I'm holding these up. There we go. The next one is Without Merit by Colleen Hoover. This is one of her YA novels, and it just says, not every mistake deserves a consequence. Sometimes the only thing it deserves is forgiveness. I really enjoy Colleen Hoover. I think that her books are a good time, but her YA series just don't usually do it for me, so I'm not overly interested in this one. I don't know if it got the best of reviews. I do know that some people really enjoyed it, but I think it was mixed, and I'm probably never going to pick it up, so I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of it. Next one is Heartless by Marissa Meyer, and this is a Cinderella, I believe, retelling, told from the perspective of the villain, and if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if it's a romance or not. I've heard really, really good things about this one, but again, it's just one of those that's been sitting on my shelves for so long, I don't think I'm ever going to actually get to it. Not that it doesn't sound interesting or that it's a bad book, but I just don't know if it's something that I'm going to gravitate toward anymore. And that's the case with a lot of these YA that I haven't read. It's just, I don't read a lot of YA anymore, and so I know that it's probably going to be the last thing that I gravitate toward to pick up, so I'm just going to go ahead and donate it. Okay, so the next one I have are two contemporaries, and the first one is Prince Charming by Rachel Hawkins. This is a really fun read. I did read this one and had a great time with it. It's just, it's a YA contemporary, so I'm never going to reread it, but it was a lot of fun. It is a romance, and it's about Daisy Winters, who is a outspoken 16-year-old Floridian, but then everything changes when her sister gets engaged to the Prince of Scotland, and she has to go with the family for the wedding, meets a boy. You can see where it goes from there. So had a good time with this one, but just not something I need to keep. The next one is another one that I did read and enjoy, but will never reread, and that is The Female of the Species by Mindy McGinnis. This is a pretty hard-hitting contemporary. It's Alex Kraft knows how to kill someone, and she doesn't feel bad about it. When her older sister Anna was murdered, the killer walked free, and now Alex is going to transition into the language she knows, the language of violence. This does have some trigger warnings in it, best I remember, so make sure to go look those up, but it was a good book, so if it's something that you're interested in, I do recommend giving it a try. Next up, we have Fragments of the Lost by Megan Miranda. This is a YA thriller, and the problem with this one is I enjoyed it okay when I read it, but I can't remember a single thing that it's about. The tagline just says, sometimes the pieces left behind tell a different story, and again, I just don't really remember a whole lot about this book. I don't remember it being a bad book. I don't remember hating it or just blatantly not enjoying it. I just don't remember anything about it. So it's going. Then we have Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. I have actually read up to book 4 in this series, but I quickly realized when I read Truly Devious that it wasn't going to be a 5-star series for me, or even really a 4-star series. So I didn't buy the remainder of the books, and there's no reason for me to just keep one on my shelves. This is a YA mystery following Stevie, who goes to a prestigious boarding school and is planning to unravel the mystery around this boarding school. I do think the author has continued to write more books, even past book 4, and book 4 had nothing to do with the original mystery, so I don't know that I'm going to be continuing at all, but I do know that I don't necessarily need physical copies on my shelves. And then we have Children of Blood and Bone by Tony Adeyemi. This one is another YA fantasy series that came out a really long time ago. I bought it, was very interested in it, but As the years have gone on, my taste has grown out of YA and I just no longer really have any interest in it. So that's the reason this one is going, not because I think it's a bad book. I'm just no longer interested in the more older YA. And then we have one that's going to pain Cassidy a little bit, but I think I am going to sell Winter's Promise by Christelle Debos. This is a translated work from French. And while I enjoyed this first book, I have heard many people that loved the series either DNF or absolutely hate the last book. And since I enjoyed this one but didn't absolutely love it, I'm like, do I even want to continue knowing that it has a bad ending? I don't know if I do. But I have heard that the first two especially, and I can agree with the first one, are really good and worth a read. So if I do continue this series, which I very well may, I don't necessarily want them all in hardcover, so I'm going to get rid of this one. Next up, we have a YA horror, supernatural horror, and that is The Wicked Deep by Shay Earnshaw. This is about a small town that back during kind of like the Salem witch trial areas drowned 3 girls for being witches, and now every year they come back for their revenge. I enjoyed this one. I think it's a really good like spooky time read. It didn't blow my socks off or anything, but I did really enjoy it. So next up I have a series that I'm planning to donate, and that is the Jacoby series by William Ritter. This is a supernatural mystery set in 1892, and it's about a girl named Abby who needs a job, and she finds a job with Jacoby, who is a detective, supernatural detective. And I enjoyed these. I had a good time with the first 2, I believe, but if I do decide to continue the series, I would need to go back and reread them, which I don't know if I'm going to do. And then even at that, I don't necessarily know that I need physical copies on my shelves, but these were a great time and I do really love the covers. So if it's something that interests you, I would recommend it. Moving on to another series that is well loved by many people, but I just personally did not enjoy them, and I'm only going to hold up the first one because they're heavy and they're all in hardcover, and that is the Witchland series by Susan Dennard. I read the first 3 in this and liked them okay, and then I heard reviews coming out for the 4th book that were not overly positive for people that actually loved the series, and so I'm like, I don't foresee myself ever picking up Witch Shadow knowing that and knowing that I didn't absolutely love the first 3, so I think they're gonna go. So we do have a Truth Witch, which is the first one in hardcover, followed by the second book, Wind Witch, in hardcover, then Blood Witch, and the never read Witch Shadow. So that's all 4 books currently out in the series. If you're thinking of reading it, might be good to snag a deal of all 4. Alright, so the next 3 are also part of a series. These are ones that I got secondhand, so they are ever so slightly beaten up, but you cannot buy these anymore. Since they are secondhand, I will put them up for a very reasonable price because they're not in bad condition, but they're also not in pristine condition. And that is the UK covers in hardcover of Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Lonnie Taylor. This is a well-beloved young adult series. I read the first one, and while, again, I enjoyed it, I just don't think I'm going to continue, and there's no reason for me to have these beautiful covers that other people might want if I'm not planning to continue them. I will say that they are a little bit beaten up. There's some nicks on the dust jacket and a crease on this one. And then on the second one, there's still, I think this is the second one, there's still a sticker, although for the most part, this one is actually in, well, it's got some beaten up back here as well. They're not terribly beaten up, like they're plenty readable, and on the shelves you don't really notice, but I do want to point them out. And then the third one does have a little bit of a nick right here in the corner, but otherwise is in pretty decent condition. Okay, so I think that got all of my YA books, so let's move on to adult. The first one is one that I bought secondhand while I was in Houston a few years ago, read and just didn't love as much as I had hoped, and that's The Sleeping Giants by Sylvain Neuvel. This is a sci-fi series set in it's like told in a format of letters and transcripts about this robot alien looking hand that just shows up one day and a girl that finds it. And I liked this one okay, but it just didn't deliver the punch that I was expecting and hoping for based off of everybody else's reviews and recommendations. I did enjoy the audiobook when I listened to it, so if I continue this series, it will be on audiobook and I no longer need the hardcover. Again, since I did buy this secondhand, it's got a little bit of a tear there, and then it had a tear that I had taped up in the back here, but the interior is still perfectly readable. Moving on to another one that I got from Book of the Month, just kind of as an additional add-on that I probably will never read, and that is Necessary People by Anna Pitoniak. I don't know exactly how to pronounce this. This is a thriller that I really don't know hardly anything about. So I'll just read the tagline because I know a lot of people don't want to be spoiled on thrillers. And that is, one of them has it all, one of them wants it, but they can't both win. I think it's about maybe some twins or something like that. Just says friends come and go, ambition is forever. It's got a really pretty cover. It's just not one that I have gravitated towards since I've owned it. So might as well get rid of it. Oh, moving on to another book of the month, and that is The Space Between Worlds by Micah Johnson. I actually started this one and I personally did not jive with the writing style. I believe this is sapphic, and it is set in a world where we can go back to different worlds, and as long as you're like yourself is not still there or something like that. It is a sci-fi novel, and I've heard good and mixed reviews on this one, so if the premise intrigues you, I say why not give it a go. And like I said, this one I read like the first couple of pages, but otherwise it's essentially never been read. Okay. Next up we have The Two Lives of Lydia Bard by Josie Silver. I did read this one and I enjoyed it. It is a romance where the main character's husband dies and she is kind of living two lives. One in the present where she's got to learn to live without him, and then she is able to dream about him and spend more time with him. And it's a lot about their relationship, but also learning to live with grief. And I liked this one. It didn't blow me away, but I did think it was a cute and good read with some pretty heavy topics, so just know that going in. Okay, so next we have The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. I read this one for G's Patreon book club a couple of months ago, and I absolutely adore the cover. This is about, again, a couple of different timelines. One set in the present for a woman that's trying to just kind of escape her marriage after her husband cheats on her. And so she goes away and wants to just learn more about history and finds this like token to a lost apothecary. And then we go way back in time and we follow the perspectives of some of the characters that were part of the apothecary itself. And I enjoyed that one, kind of. It wasn't what I was expecting, and it is a much slower burn, but if you're into it for the atmosphere, I think you might enjoy that one. Next up is Gods of Jade and Shadow by Sylvia Marina Garcia. And again, I just don't think I jive with Sylvia Marina Garcia's writing style. It is a very fantasy, like fairy tale-esque writing, and this one is about a god of death and a Mayan god of death who sends a young woman on a harrowing, life-changing journey in this dark fairy tale inspired by Mexican folklore. The premise of this was absolutely amazing. I just personally didn't jive with the writing style, but I know a lot of people that have absolutely loved this, so if it sounds like something you're interested in, snag it up. Next we have Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman. This is a well-beloved fantasy novel about three sisters, and it just didn't work for me personally. I will say that the pace is a lot slower than I was expecting, and the writing style and I just didn't get along, but this is a well-loved book, so I know that I'm in the minority here. It was just a lot more about the sisters than it was any kind of plot or witchery, so it just wasn't really for me. Now we have The Wife Between Us by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. This is actually the one of their books that I have enjoyed and had a good time with. It is twisty, and I enjoyed the twist that came at the end. It's a domestic thriller. This author duo a lot since then that I personally didn't like as much, and I have the rest of their books in Book of the Month books, so I'm just going to get rid of this one particular hardcover. But if you've enjoyed their other books and haven't read this one yet, I do think you should give this one a try. Next we have Something in the Water by Catherine Steadman. This is another thriller, and it sounded really good when I picked it up, and then I heard some mixed reviews and just kind of forgot about it, and now I feel like I'm probably not ever going to read it in the light of lots and lots of new stuff coming out. But this one just says, if you could make one simple choice that would change your life forever, would you? In this electrifying psychological thriller, a shocking discovery on their honeymoon in paradise shatters the lives of a young couple. And I think it sounds very mysterious. I love psychological thrillers. It's just, if I do decide to get to this one, again, I'll probably pick it up in a different format, and I don't know that I will want a physical copy, but this one has never been read. So if it sounds like something up your alley. Moving on, another one is Once Upon a Time by Diane Setterfield. This is a fairy tale-like story where 3 girls go missing and 1 is returned, and then a story begins. Again, I heard really good things about this book, so I bought it, and then as more reviews have come out, I do think it is more lyrical, whimsical, fairy tale type story, which is just not something that I have been gravitating toward lately, so I figured I would just let this one go. But I have heard good things about it. Next we have The Truly Madly Guilty by Lane Moriarty. This is one of her later books that came after Big Little Lies, and it just says 6 responsible adults, 3 cute kids, 1 small dog. It's just a normal weekend. What could possibly go wrong? It is a domestic thriller, and again, it's just one of those that was actually given to me. Somebody was like, here, do you want to read this? Take it. And I was like, sure, not really, but I'll take it off your hands anyway, because they didn't want to keep it anymore. Thinking I might read it, and I just never have, so I think I'm going to let it go. Hopefully somebody will get it that will read it. The next one we have The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. This is a well-loved cozy mystery that I personally just could not get into. I tried probably 30% of the audiobook and just realized that the writing style in this type of story wasn't for me. But it is about a group of elderly people that get together and create the Thursday Murder Club in their nursing home, and they piece through all of these different mysteries and try to figure out the culprit. I mean, it sounds cute and quirky, and this particular copy has not been read, so if you're interested, might be a good time to pick it up, but it just wasn't the book for me. Moving on to a new release that I did not like, so I'm going to get rid of it, and that is The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. I've heard great things about this book, and I have heard terrible things about this book. Sadly, I fell into the did not like department. This is about a girl that is trying to get away and is going to go stay with her brother in a Paris apartment, but once she gets there, he's nowhere to be found, and she kind of has to unravel this mystery with the creepy people that are living in this apartment. And it wasn't the book for me. I think Lucy Foley as an author is probably not for me. If you've enjoyed her other books, this is very, very similar in tone and style, so I think you would enjoy it, but it's more of a slow burn mystery than any type of thriller in my opinion. Another horror that I have that is well loved that just wasn't for me is The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. I started this one. There was a scene of pretty graphic, like animal death for no reason. And while animal death itself in a book, as long as there is a point behind it, does not bother me, animal cruelty just for the sake of animal cruelty and to put something shocking in a book, I won't read about it. I think it's unnecessary. This is a horror about a group of people or men that killed, I think, an elk on tribal land, and now the ghost of the elk are going to come back and seek their revenge. I may be completely butchering that description, but I've heard excellent things about this book as long as you jive with Stephen Graham Jones' writing style. So if you've read other things by him and know you enjoyed them, but you haven't read this yet, might be worth taking a look. Oh my goodness, they just keep coming. Let's maybe go into some romances for a minute. Why not shake it up? We have Reckless by S.C. Stevens. I actually think this one is the 3rd book in a series. I really enjoyed this series. It starts with Thoughtless and then goes into Effortless. And it is a romance between a girl and, well, I can't really tell you all of that. It's a spoiler. Basically, there's some rock and roll in this book, and there is romance, and there is tangled fates and tangled relationships. It is very sappy, and I mean, this cover is very old school. I don't know if it stands the test of time because it was written a while ago, but if you have not read this series and it sounds like something that you would enjoy, I did have a good time with it when I read it. Moving on to Bare to You by Sylvia Day. This is a very erotic, a very steamy romance. It's a billionaire romance that I read, oh my goodness, so many moons ago now, and probably am not going to reread it, but I did have a good time with it. So if billionaire romance is something that you tend to really enjoy, I would give this one a try. It is well loved. It's still very readable, but there are some little just like scratches around the edges from wear and tear of time. But next up, we have The Restorer by Amanda Stevens. This is an older book about a graveyard restorer, and it's her job to go into these graveyards and perk them up a little bit. Graveyards tend to be not very well taken care of from time to time, especially the older, more historical ones. And so our main character, Amelia Gray's job is to go in and restore them. And of course, when in a graveyard, there shall be spooky things. This is a series that I think I've only read the first or the second book in. And just the tagline is every cemetery has a story, every grave its secrets. Again, this one is it's an older book, so it does have some wear and tear with time, but if it sounds like something you would enjoy, I do recommend this one. I enjoyed it. Moving on to another spicy romance that I don't actually know that I read. I may have just bought it when I was on that kick like 4 or 5 years ago, but that is Livewire by Laura Lee. I don't remember anything about this book if I read it. I don't know anything about it if I didn't. I think it says meet Captain Joe Malone. For years, he's been a silent warrior and guardian operating independent of government protocol and oversight to his elite ops agents to fight terror at all costs. Tia is an enigma, a force to be reckoned with, a woman that striking spells nothing but trouble for Jordan. So, it sounds like a Coast Guard ops romance. If it's up your style or if it's up your street, give it a go. One other series that I have that is well loved, that I read a long time ago and honestly is not in the best condition, because I've had them for so long, is the Stormborn series by Rochelle Mead. This is a series about a shaman for hire. It was a lot of fun when I read it. I enjoyed them a lot, but I know that I'm not ever going to reread them, so I just figured that I would pass them off to somebody that would. Okay, next up we have another older one that I just am not going to read, and that is Big Little Lies by... And that is Big Little Lies by Lane Moriarty. Everybody knows what this is about. There is a TV show. There are all the things. This one does have a little bit of a bent corner on it, and somebody broke the spine. I bought this one secondhand, but I'm not going to read it, so let's just give it to somebody that will. The next two is a duology, and that is The Killing Moon and The Shadowed Sun by N.K. Jemisin. I read The Killing Moon, liked it okay, read The Shadowed Sun, or at least part of it, and it just was not for me, so I personally am going to be getting rid of these just because I didn't enjoy it enough to keep it on my shelves. But I know that there are some very high praise N.K. Jemisin fans out there that might be more interested in these than me. Next up, we have one that I also rebought copies of, so this is just my second one that I need to get rid of, and that is Red Rising by Pierce Brown. This is a dystopian cast-like story about our main character, Darrow, who works as a Red down in the mines under the Martian world, and the Reds are trying to come out of the mines and rise up and basically take back over Earth. Okay, if you can tell that I'm speeding through these now, it's because we are almost done. The next one is The Gathering Storm by Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson. This is one of the later ones in the book. I think it's book 12 in the newer, like, mass market paperback style. They just sent me the wrong book and didn't want it back, so I actually ordered the big floppy paperback and they sent me the little paperback, so I just figured I'd pass this off to somebody who may need it or want it. Next up, we have Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I got about 60% of this book and just, it wasn't the book for me. It is a very hard sci-fi about Earth is crumbling down and that we're going to have to go and kind of make a new world, and it has sentient spiders and space battles. It was too technical for me, but I know that there is a lot of high praise for this book. So if you're interested, I would give it a go. And the last book I have is The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. This is the original matte indie book. So if you see this on Pango Books, gosh darn it, Editing Mel is back again. My camera has been driving me crazy today. My phone has had full storage. Thank you to Maria for giving me a hack for this. But I just wanted to quickly finish off the clip that I was talking about for Atlas 6 really quick. Yes, that book is going to be more expensive on Pango Books because it is the original matte cover that you can't buy anymore. And I didn't want to make it like $10 like everything else and then somebody buy it and then just resell it for $300 or $400. I would rather make it a little bit more expensive because it isn't available anymore. You can't buy that. And somebody just purchase it and then mark it up significantly higher than everybody else's for no reason. So if you see it be more expensive, that is why.
Okay, so I think that's everything.
Okay, so I think that is everything. If there's any of these books that I'm getting rid of that you think I should keep, or that you're like, nah, see ya, girl, please let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!